Glad to be here.
We'll go ahead and begin. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to our very first agenda meeting of 2024, which will precede the first regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Directors next Tuesday. Today we'll review the action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday, January 16th, right here at City Hall at 6 o'clock, and I'll call upon our City Manager, Mr. Bill Burrow, to review those action items. Bill?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Before we get into your agenda, we have with us Gary Troutman, President and CEO of the Greater Hot Springs Chamber of Commerce and the Hot Springs Metro Partnership. He is here to deliver his economic development report. Hey, Gary.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that. Happy New Year, everyone. I think you can say that to the 11th if I heard my New Year's etiquette. I'll try to be brief. December was one of our slower months, frankly, with the holidays, but we had a site visit to USNR. Cole attended the Arkansas Broadband Committee call, and I just want to take this time to a quick aside. Welcome anybody to be my guest, and I'm sure Bill and Pat would feel the same way. We're going to have Glenn Howey will be our special guest tomorrow at National Park Rotary. He is the Arkansas Broadband Director, and I'm sure he's going to have an interesting report on the connectivity throughout the state. Also early in December, we had a meeting in Jones Mill with Judge Thornton from Malvern. Lance Howell, my counterpart over there, Todd Green, our Metro Partnership Chair last year, Representative Les Warren, Cole, Gary, and myself about what the Malvern folks would need to do to bring a project to Jones Mill because we've already had some interest in that property. And obviously there's a lot of particulars from water usage, sewer usage, and such that a company would want to know before they would come to town, so we're kind of coaching them up on that. Cole assembled both Leadership Hot Springs Youth and the adult class that we had Economic Day for. Both groups toured Alliance Rubber and Express Boats, and on the adult side we had Eric Jackson give his wonderful presentation on the value of tourism in a community and the additional dollars it brings to a town. I really want to appreciate or say thank you to Cora Easterday from West Central Planning. In addition to helping tremendously with our workforce project, she went along with me to Bentonville to present that last month, and that was a real honor. As you'll recall, Hot Springs is one of 5 communities in the country to receive that SHRM Foundation grant, and we presented our project there. I know it's an economic development report, but Ice on Ice was very successful at Hamp Williams. We wound up having 500 people in attendance there. Got lucky on the weather. Continue to meet with our Workforce Development Board, the 10-county one. Tabletop for the Board of Realtors. Carol Bales was sworn in as the president this year of the Board of Realtors. And Bill, you and I are nodding. I mean, that's important. Obviously, we're going to be working more closely than ever with the realtors on water and all that you all have done to make water happen. Now is the time that we need to lean on the Board of Realtors for help with the developers and builders in that area. Fittingly enough, our last school visit of the year was Hot Springs High, because that's where Gary Jackson graduated from. We had 278 students that day, so we had the auditorium full. We had David Garfunkel, who's the owner of the Large L of Cornerstone, if you will, came in before the holidays to visit about Chick-fil-A. It's obviously since opened and doing, from I hear, extremely well. I haven't been here, but I heard that they have not been lacking for customers the past several days since they opened. Attended a Village POA board meeting in which Kevin Sexton presented Dr. Tom Arwood, General Tom Arwood, recognition with a nice frame photo there. And just a friendly reminder, we're all excited about the Martin Luther King Expressway extension. I failed to remember that night that we were having a watch party at the chamber. We were down to 2 precincts and things weren't looking that good, and the village passed by 72% and put us over the top. So just good to remember as we're remembering that, and our partners to the north. Had our trustee luncheon, the final one of the quarter of the year, with the mayor and city manager Burrow. And that concludes 2023. I just wanted to say was in University of Arizona all last week serving on the U.S. Chamber Board of Regents. I bring that up because the Vice President of the U.S. Chamber, Raymond Toll, happens to be a huge pickleball fan. You probably saw in last Thursday's Sentinel Record and about 1,000 other media sources that Vince Signorelli and Tanner's now has the official ball of pickleball. So a huge event for Vince and for Hot Springs as a whole. So, Director Trusty, I can't leave the podium without mentioning last night Ouachita Bar and Grill, a fantastic new addition to our downtown area. And one other thing, Gary and I got back in the schools this morning. At Lakeside, we were supposed to talk to the 10th and 11th grade. We wound up talking to 800 as the seniors joined us. So we were at Center Court in the auditorium, and the place was full. So we're back on track and doing workforce in our schools again in 2024. Bill, Mayor, that concludes our report. Happy to try to answer
Any questions of Mr. Troutman?
Could you repeat that? No.
It may be on video or taped anyway.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.
First item on your consent agenda is consider resolution R-2401, a resolution acknowledging receipt of the City of Hot Springs financial statements for November 2023. And Director Trustee and members of the board, next month when our finance director delivers the December, she'll also do her quarterly and annual reports. So with that, our finance director, Karen Scott, will present this item.
Good afternoon. As you know, monthly financial statements are issued to keep city management and constituents apprised of the financial condition of the City of Hot Springs. The November 2023 financial statements will be provided as an attachment to your board action request, and staff recommends acknowledging receipt of the November 2023 financial statements.
Any questions of Ms. Scott? Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R-2402, a resolution approving a contract for services with ISI Water Company of America, WCA, for the review of unbilled or misbilled utility services. And again, Ms. Scott.
Thank you. The city issued a request for proposals in November of 2023 in accordance with Hot Springs Code 2-6-1.4B for certain professional services, including the review of unbilled or misbilled utility services. The city received only one response, and that was submitted by ISI Water Company of America, or WCA. The response submitted by WCA was rated and ranked and is deemed to meet the city's requirements to perform this service. Per the attached agreement that will be attached to your BARF, the WCA will only be compensated in the form of a percentage of unbilled or misbilled revenue that their service identifies and the city subsequently begins collecting. The contract specifies they will be entitled to 50% of increased revenues for 48 months after the billing error is corrected. While WCA will be entitled to 50% commission, the financial impact will be positive because the city will be receiving increased revenues we had not been previously collecting. Maura and Monty and I had discussed on a couple different occasions that we were concerned that we had some accounts that were not possibly set up correctly or at all. And I had heard a presentation from this company back in the summer, and we met with him, and he talked us through what they would do, and we felt like it was a really good opportunity for us to engage this company. So that's why we did the RFP. We did have one other company that looked at it but did not actually submit a proposal.
And if I could, I want to add that this is something that the AWWMA recommends that utilities do from time to time. It's been several years. I can't remember the last time we've actually did an audit. And these are going to pick up things like maybe we have a 5-inch meter that's in the system that got keyed as a 5/8. They may have a 2-inch line. Could be an account that did not get the wastewater added to it at the time. We don't know. We don't know if there's any specific issue, but In talking to some of the peers in the industry that have gone through this process, they've been successful in finding something that's either been miskeyed or misapplied into the billing. So we think it's a good idea to bring that to the board and see if there's any type of revenues out there that we may be able to increase by this basic audit of our utility billing system.
Director Garcia?
I understand that we've had some system changeovers and upgrades that it's easy for things to not come over as they were in the past too. But this only identifies water that should be billed, that's not being billed or not billed correctly. It would not identify any leaks or lost water.
They actually do have, part of their service will be to be in the field, and it's water and wastewater.
So it may also identify water loss.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Karen, what's the time frame on the study, and how far are they going to go back? Are they going to go back a year? Are they going to go back 2 years, or will it just be current, a snapshot?
They'll go back to as much data in New World as we have. We went into New World in 2016.
Okay,
So they have the ability to scrub all that data.
okay. And the process will take, I mean, is it 4 months, 6 months?
I think it's 6 to 9 months.
6 to 9 months. Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item is to consider Resolution R-2403, a resolution awarding a contract to Gosley Construction Company, Inc. for certain community development block grant improvement projects on Park Avenue, Tom Ellsworth Drive, and Holly Street in the amount of $55,791. And our Assistant City Engineer, Mike Hill, will present.
Good afternoon. This project combines two CDBG projects. One project has two locations. It's Park Avenue near the Park Place Baptist Church, and the second street is Tom Ellsworth Drive, where it intersects Park Avenue. The other job is for work on Holly Street, where it intersects Park Avenue. These projects will address drainage issues and add rain gardens, curb and guttering, improve sidewalks, and add ADA ramps where needed. This is the second time this project has been put out to contract. The first time there were no qualified bidders. There were 3 bids this time, and we accepted the low bid from Gosley Construction for $55,771.
Any questions of Mike? Thank you.
Mayor, members of the board, the next two items are going to sound very similar. However, they are different in scope. It's considered Resolution R-2404, resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a U.S. Department of Transportation Rebuilding America Infrastructure with Sustainability and Equity, or RAISE, grant for the design and construction of certain trails and trail connectors. And again, Mr. Hill.
Yes, this is the first of the 2 RAISE grants that we are bringing to you. The RAISE grant has 2 different pools of money to pull from. One is for capital projects and the other is for planning projects. We have been attending some RAISE workshops to help us develop a stronger grant application, and we were encouraged to split the 2 of our projects into 2 different projects. The advice was to put the ones that are further along in the planning and the environmental work into a capital project, and those with less work done on them, more planning needs to be done, to put those into a planning project. They advised us to do this since one of the criteria for grading is the grant is project readiness. So the ones that are ready to go, we want to do capital on, and the other ones we'll do planning. The implementation project includes 3 trails: the Southwest Trail, the Pullman Avenue Trailhead, and the Stokes Creek Greenway Trail. The Southwest Trail enters the city at Guy Street and runs along Spring Street until entering an abandoned railroad right-of-way that it follows to Convention Boulevard. From there it goes to eventually connect to the Greenway and the National Park Administration Building. The Pullman Avenue Trailhead is at the end of Pullman Avenue and gives us access to North Woods through the National Park. The first phase of the Stokes Creek Greenway, we have already received a TAP grant for that, and we expect to advertise that this spring. This grant would fund the remainder of the Stokes Creek Greenway. It has one end of it near Lake Hamilton, near the Martin Luther King Expressway at the McLeod exit, and follows Stokes Creek until it ties into the future G&W Railroad Trail near East St. Louis.
Any questions of Mike on this item?
Mike, what was the amount?
The amount for that would be $9 million. That's an estimated amount, so we could fluctuate.
So both of these are really huge infrastructure grants that staff has worked on for quite some time. And as he had mentioned, we've attended sessions on how to really be able to write a grant that would have a better opportunity to being chosen. They are very competitive, but we have seen some success in Arkansas from RAISE, so we're excited to do that.
The bad news is that a lot of people attended those workshops. The grant people are telling us we expect to see some very good grants coming in because a lot of people participated, so
But there is a lot of money out there.
there is a lot of money out there.
Very good.
I have a question.
Director Beard?
Thank you, Mayor. The 9 million, is that for just this one, or is that for the next one as well?
The $9 million is just for the implementation one. The other one is for planning, and we have $2 million in there for planning future trails
Okay.
and one road, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Were you saying that this is just us considering to approve the filing of this grant? This isn't
Yes.
actually us receiving it, but this is us saying, yes, we want to move forward with the application process to be potentially awarded this amount of money?
Yes, that's one of the
Right.
criteria. Before we can apply for a grant, the city has to be willing to accept if we win. So we bring it to the board to make sure that the city board will accept this if we're awarded this.
You were saying it was 9 million for implementation, 2 million for planning?
Yes.
Correct, so 11 million total. Do you have any dates or times as to when the application has to be filed by, when they review and?
Yes, application is due February the 28th at 5 o'clock, I believe.
And then how much of a window is given to review the grants to determine who's the who's the winner?
Well, they don't tell us when they're going to be done, but this last year, I think we found out in maybe September. It was in early fall,
sometime.
late summer that we found out.
Can you share with the board who is overseeing the reviewing process? Were you saying this is at the federal level?
This is federal level.
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Do want to clarify, it is to file and accept, and there is no match.
Since we're considered rural and we don't have to do a match, but we're also, a lot of the areas that we're targeting are underserved, so that brings up our score some. They're really trying to get underserved areas, and a lot of our trails that we picked are in underserved areas.
Again, there's two items here. Item 4, which is Resolution R-24-04, is the 9 million and it's capital.
Yes,
The next one, R-24-05, is 2 million and it's planning.
yes,
So the planning is for subsequent segments of the project.
yes, future projects.
Future project. But as you said, the 04 resolution 24-04 is for things you're ready to implement today.
Yes, they're further along. We have more environmental work done and more of the specifics of the trails picked out.
Hence, you got a capital request, and then you subsequently, on another resolution, you have a planning request.
Yes, and we were told that
Those two don't go together.
They
You
don't
can
go
get one
together.
or the other, or
We-
both.
we could get both. If we're really lucky, to get both. That would be quite a catch if we got both. Yes,
Mike,
quite a
on
catch if we get one of them.
On Resolution R-2405, why don't you go ahead and explain what those projects are?
Sure. The second raise grant that we're applying for is for the planning. The city of Hot Springs have been successful expanding its trail system. It is a slow process due to the time to develop the plans and the high cost of construction. Grants can help with this cost, but often the grant is more appealing to the grantee if we have plans already developed. So getting these projects designed will help us in the future, turning in more appealing grants to the grantee or grantor. The trails listed have been recommended for future development in cooperation with city staff, friends of the park, and with the national park. The trails include the Airport Trail, Gulfville Trail, Whipple Trail, and the GW Railroad Trail. The East Belding Street extension is also included in the design grant. The Airport Trail encircles the airport, providing access from Airport Road to the future Stokes Creek Greenway. The Gulfville Trail starts near the Martin Luther King bypass and follows the Gulfville Trail until it joins the future Southwest Trail. It then veers off the Southwest Trail to follow Gulfville Creek into the National Park, where it will eventually tie back into Park Avenue. The Whipple Trail is a joint effort between the City of Hot Springs and the National Park. Its goal is to provide a multi-use trail to the west of businesses along downtown Central Avenue, going from Mountain Street to Whittington Avenue. And the final trail is the G&W Railroad Trail, which follows the old railroad right-of-way beginning at the future Southwest Trail and goes all the way to Mountain Pine. This encompasses approximately 18 miles of new trails. The one street that we have is the East Belding Extension, which would extend East Belding to a signalized intersection with Malvern Avenue in line with the library. It would also add sidewalks and bike lanes along East Belding all the way to the Hot Springs Greenway. This will provide a safer exit from the library and will allow trail travelers better access to the amenities of a growing library while providing better access for trucks to reach local industry. This access will allow trucks to bypass Velocity Park, the skate park, and neighborhood streets where they are frequently traveled now.
Any questions on that? Those are good projects. Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. If awarded, how much of an earmark window do we have to, say, determine how the funds are going to be spent and when the construction has to start, when the projects have to be completed by? Do we know any of those details yet, or would that come out upon awarding?
In the implementation, they want it spent in 5 years. They want the money spent. So they want a quick start. After you sign the contract, my understanding from talking to some other cities, no one has signed their contract yet. I mean, in Arkansas, it is taking some time to get agreements. Conway's probably farther along than anybody else. But talking to Russellville, who won it this past year, they said that there's a lot of paperwork that goes in signing the agreement. And theirs is more complicated because they're dealing with a railroad. But, you know, we recently got the Safe Streets for All grant. And I talked to Fort Smith, who got one of those last year, and it took them a year just to sign the contract for that grant. The feds are very slow to get the contract signed, but once it's signed, the implementation, we should have spent the money in 5 years. The planning, I think it's a little quicker because you're just planning, you're not having to build everything out.
But even though we're filing and accepting the grant, projects are still going to come back to the board.
Right.
Yes. Yeah,
That was going to
everything.
be a next follow-up question. There'll still be some pieces that come back to the board for review. Well, that information is good to know, and I appreciate your team. And I did the Parks and Trails have probably a lot to do to help recognize this grant and help get the paperwork submitted and at least ready to be presented to us. So I want to thank you for recognizing this grant.
Yeah, the Friends of the Park are great partners. They're doing a great job, and it's very interesting that the National Park actually reached out to us and wanted to partner with us because they're interested in getting some more trail connections into the National Park. So that's very encouraging to have them on our side. They've offered to review our grant application and give suggestions once we're ready to submit.
You know, as most of the board knows, Whippoorwill that ran behind those buildings on Central, on the west side of Central, you know, a portion of Whippoorwill has actually fallen. It's in one of the parking lots in between the Medical Arts building and the next building. So working with the National Park, they have a trail that's about 20 feet higher than where our demarcation line is, and so they're willing to help work on that, and we've had a success. Typically they don't allow bikes on National Park trails, but we did have that success on Pullman, and they feel like we may have an opportunity here too. So it's a really good collaboration, especially going into a federal grant.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Next, we have considered Resolution R 2406, a resolution approving the extension of electrical transmission mains to the water treatment plant on Randall Road by Entergy Arkansas LLC in the amount of $112,173.02. And our project manager, Todd Pillar, who's doing a great job out there, will present this item.
Thank you. Good afternoon. We've got almost all the utilities run out to the new water plant we're building. This is the energy overhead electrical transmission lines. To give you an idea, your house has probably got a 100 or 200 amp breaker for your house. This is 3,000 amps. So, three-phase, 480 volt, and Energy has graciously paid for the transformer. So our cost was a little bit higher than what was on our on your bar, but the $112,173 is all the materials, wire, utility poles, conduit, transformer, and everything, and labor installation for our new service to new water plant. And when the resolution is passed, it'll take Energy between 60 and 90 days to get it completed. And of course, it's coming from the 2023 board-approved water bond.
Any questions of Todd? I guess I have one, Todd. I guess the utility lines are going to be overhead versus underground.
They'll be overhead until they get to our two entrances, and then they'll go underground.
Okay, and then what's our alternate power source out there? I guess you'll have some big
I-
generators?
I already have a generator in Kohler, Wisconsin, sitting there waiting to be delivered.
Okay.
You approved that earlier.
Yeah, I remember that. It's just, I think you had some good pricing or something. We had to act
Correct.
on it, and they were willing to hold it. So, all right. Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, consider Resolution R 2407, a resolution approving the purchase of a John Deere 6510E tractor from Greenway Equipment, Inc. pursuant to the Cooperative Purchasing Program through Sourcewell in the amount of $79,495.25. And our Public Works Director, Ron Seavrat, will present.
Good afternoon. This vehicle will replace Unit 9501, a 2014 model John Deere 5085E tractor that currently has a history of high maintenance and repair cost. These specifications have been reviewed and approved by the City of Fleet Services, and the cost is $79,494.25.
Any questions of Ron? Director Garcia?
Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
Mayor. Will there be any salvage value from the old one?
There usually is. We send them out to auction, Fleet does, and then they secure a price from that.
Thank you.
Director Trustee?
That was my question, what we're gonna do with the tractor
Surplus.
that's being replaced, so it'll be surplus.
These tractors, are they readily available, or do they only build them as they are ordered?
Well, one thing about the Sourcewell projects is they try to keep some right on the line readily available for us. And I'll be bringing the implements, the attachments to you here shortly in another presentation.
Very good.
Next item is consider Resolution R 2408, a resolution approving the purchase of a Vector 2100i combination sewer cleaner truck from Vector Manufacturing, offered through the Environmental Projects Group Incorporated pursuant to the Cooperative Purchase Program through Sourcewell in the amount of $468,733.58. Ron?
Thank you. The guys are really excited about getting this unit. This unit will replace Unit 7336, which is a 1998 International with 20,989 miles, but it has 4,140 hours. That has currently experienced a lot of downtime and parts are difficult to find. The specifications have been reviewed and approved by City Fleet Services, and the purchase price is $468,733.58. Currently, our operation is we have two different pieces that take care of this. We have one that's a jetter truck that jets out the line, and another truck that comes out that actually vectors out the line and cleans it up. This is a combination that does both in one.
It is very much like one that we have had great success with in utilities.
Any questions on this item?
So, again.
Yes, ma'am.
Will the 2 units that?
The one will go to auction, yes.
And what about the other one? Is
It's not
it-
ready for replacement yet. We'll hang on to that one.
So you can use it otherwise, elsewhere?
Correct.
Even though this does both the work of both pieces?
Correct. We can use it in other areas.
All right. Any
Thank
addition-
you.
Okay. Any further questions? Thank you.
Next is consider Resolution R-2409, a resolution approving the purchase of an EnviroSite sewer inspection camera system offered through Environmental Products Group, Inc., pursuant to the Cooperative Purchase Program through Sourcewell in the amount of $123,596.84. And again, Mr. Seabright.
This unit will be utilized by the Stormwater Division for inspecting of our stormwater infrastructure. This system is designed to have the ability to access all sizes of stormwater systems, as well as provide GPS information back to the operator. Again, the purchase price is $123,596.94. The nice thing about this operation is it's a complete unit. The GPS gives actual coordinates back to the operator where you can pinpoint exactly where the issues are in that pipe. And we can also track down that unit should we have a problem where it rolls over and we have to go and retrieve it.
Which has happened.
I was asked to do it once.
Any questions on this item? Thank you.
Next, we have considered Resolution R-2410, a resolution approving the purchase of a new asphalt patch truck from PB Loader Corporation pursuant to the Cooperative Purchasing Program through Sourcewell in the amount of $275,406.65. And again, Ron.
This vehicle will replace Unit 8792, a 2006 Ford F-750 that has 60,802 miles, that has currently experienced a lot of downtime, and parts are difficult to find. The specifications have been reviewed and approved by the City Fleet Services. This truck here is an old auger-type service truck, and the new one will be a belt-fed, which gives the staff a big advantage. If that auger happens to fail, staff ends up shoveling all that material out of the truck, where the belt-fed unit, it'll still feed that material out, so.
Any questions? Director Trustee?
Thank you. Bill, all 4 of these items are budgeted items for this year?
They are
I
in.
just assumed that, and I
They,
wanted to
they,
verify.
they are, and actually, I've asked staff to bring these items, these big capital items that we know sometimes have long waits, to get
Right.
those ready and get them to the board as soon as we can this year.
Okay.
You'll see something similar coming in from utilities as they're putting their capital projects together as well. Another good thing about this particular piece of equipment, we have talked in the past, in some of our roads where we have washboards at the red lights, you have a really nice road and the last 150 feet or last 100 yards are really chewed up from just heavy trucks stopping during the summer, and it starts rolling that asphalt. We bought a piece of equipment last year that allows us to mill those without having our paving contractor do that. And this particular machine will help us come back in as we mill and pave those areas. So it'll let us do a lot more in-house than we've done in the past.
Will any of these be financed? I suppose we'll do a,
Several will, and Karen, you'll be bringing that, I guess. Come on up.
Yes, we actually released that RFP today. It's out there for 3 weeks, so probably the second meeting in February, I'll have that for the board's approval.
great, thank you. Thank you.
Very good. Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. Next, we have considered Resolution R-2411, a resolution acknowledging the organizational rules and procedures for the City of Hot Springs Board of Directors for the calendar year of 2024. Who's taking it?
I'll take
Me.
it. Bill, Mayor, members of the board, Arkansas law requires the governing bodies of each city and town to to meet and annually organize the procedures by which they are going to run their meetings, to determine the rules of the proceedings and keep a journal, otherwise the minutes of its proceedings. Hot Springs Board of Directors has always adopted the rules and procedures that you find in Title II that we've been having our series of work sessions on. And so this resolution is presented in satisfaction of the requirements of Arkansas Code 14-43-501, the rules that you adopt or thereafter amend from time to time are your rules for proceedings and the requirement to keep minutes of those proceedings.
Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Will this include the updates that we have discussed? Will those be included in this or later?
It adopts Title II, Chapter 1, which is all of them, at whatever point they exist. So at the point in time you're going to approve this resolution, it's what we have on the books now. If you later amend those, you've amended those. Not a problem. It's just setting forth what your procedures are.
Okay, so where we've gone through so far in our work sessions, those will be later amended.
They'll all be amended at the same time.
Okay, that's what I
There's
was
no
asking.
reason to adopt any amendments
Until we get
presently.
through. Okay. I got you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Questions.
Oh, Director.
I just flipped through my notebook. Do we do this every January? Because I
Yes.
don't have it. Okay. Then I just missed it last
Yes,
January.
you do since 2000, what year did that go in effect? Since 2015.
I believe you. I just couldn't find it in my notes.
Next item?
Next item is consider resolution R-2412, a resolution awarding a bid to HD Roofing and Construction LLC for the roof replacement and building repairs at the Davidson Drive wastewater treatment plant and authorizing a budget adjustment of $143,250. And our Deputy City Manager, Denny McFate, will present.
Thank you, Mr. Burrows, members of the board. The roof on the main level of the Davidson wastewater treatment plant was damaged during recent hailstorms and is in need of replacement. It's been evaluated by the insurance adjuster for AML and determined that the TPO roofing needs to be replaced along with some damaged ceiling tile and ceiling insulation. The bids were duly advertised and 4 bids were received. HD Roofing Construction from Conway was the lowest bidder. Staff has reviewed the bid from HD Roofing and it meets all specifications. Therefore, staff's recommendation is to award the contract to HD Roofing of Conway, Arkansas in the amount of $143,250. And the budget adjustment is to move those funds from insurance proceeds over to a repair account so we can spend it.
Mayor, if I could, I wanted to just add a kudos to Karen. Scott, you know, when we originally received this, the insurance adjuster sent us $83,500. We got these bids in and we had a conversation, you know, that's a huge gap. So Karen went back with AML and their adjusters and coverage, and they're picking up the entire amount. So,
Okay, so it's 100%.
good work.
Right.
Very good. Director Garcia had a question?
Have we had work done by HD Roofing in the past?
No, ma'am.
In their bid, was there references
Yes, ma'am.
that were checked?
Yes, ma'am.
And everything was
Yes, ma'am.
satisfactory? Thank you.
They are out of Conway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
they
why I was asking.
Thank you.
Next, we have Resolution R-2413, a resolution authorizing the purchase of certain tasers and related accessory from Axon Enterprises, Inc., pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated 1458-104 in the amount of $92,561.45. And Chief Harveston's here to present the item. Chief?
Thank you, sir. Mayor, members of the board, excuse me. The use of less lethal weapons in policing is a valuable asset to both the safety of the officer and the suspect being apprehended. Tasers, also known as conducted electrical devices, give officers the ability to apprehend a resistant suspect with a reduction in the chance of serious injury to all persons involved. The Hot Springs Police Department has been using tasers for many years now and has found them to be an invaluable tool. However, many in the current inventory are Taser Model X26s that have reached the end of their life cycle and are no longer being manufactured rendering them unserviceable in the way of repairs. For this reason, they need to be replaced with a more current model. The Hot Springs Police Department is requesting the board to approve the purchase of a quantity of 55 Taser X26Ps and related accessories such as holsters and battery packs. Axon is the manufacturer and sole source provider of tasers, and they are not offered for sale by any other distributor or other source. If approved by the board, this purchase will be made pursuant to ACA 1458-104 regarding goods and services available from a single source. The financial impact of this purchase is $92,561.45 and was part of the annual budgeting process previously approved by the board in November of 2023. You have the quote, sole source documents, and the COA for the funds in your packet. And I'll answer any questions if you have any.
And current tasers will be surplused and destroyed.
Director Garcia?
Does this change in model require any additional training, or is it enough? I mean, there's not significant change that would require additional training.
These are the same in form and function as the ones we have now. In fact, we already have some of this model. You guys may remember early last year we bought some on a grant. That replaced part of our inventory. This will replace the biggest majority of the leftover X26s that we currently have in the ones that we got under the grant were also X26Ps. They are the same in form and function, don't require any additional training.
Thank you.
Any additional questions of Chief? Thank you.
Next, Mayor, we will begin your new business. The first item is a resolution R-2414, which was a resolution authorizing a ground lease agreement with the Historic Downtown Farmers Market, Inc. And I think our city attorney has something to mention on this item.
Mayor and members of the board, the president for the board of the farmers market needs time to convene with their board to go over the lease agreement. They had not had an opportunity to do that apparently, and so we would ask that this be removed from the agenda for this time. We'll bring it back to you at a following meeting.
All right.
Next is consider your first ordinance of the evening. It would be ordinance O-2401, an ordinance waiving the requirement of competitive bidding for and approving the procurement of a Tiger AR-12 Wildcat boom mower from Little Rock Equipment Sales in the amount of $61,585. And again, our Public Works Director, Ron Seabright.
Good afternoon. This is the implements that will be mounted on that new tractor that we'll be purchasing. We've been using Tiger brand equipment for over 20 years. It's very high quality, works really good. Little Rock Equipment is the sole source provider for the state of Arkansas for these implements. And they work and marry up. They'll be mounting this equipment onto the new tractor when we receive it and then deliver it to us.
Any questions around? Director? Trustee?
Thank you. Ron, the attachments on the old tractor are not functioning properly either? I mean, you said the tractor had some downtime.
Correct. It's an older model, and those older attachments will not fit on these newer equipment.
Okay. All right.
So they
Thank
will
you.
be salvaged with the tractor.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have consider ordinance O-2402, an ordinance amending ordinance number 6469 and authorizing a 2024 contract for services with High Impact Movement, Inc. pursuant to Arkansas Code annotated 1458-104-18 and for other purposes. And our Deputy City Manager, Lance Spicer, will present the item.
Thank you. Good evening. This particular item, if the board will remember, you adopted an ordinance back in July of 2023, and that particular ordinance and the contract for services we have with High Impact Movement, led by Mr. Amos Gray, it had kind of a split funding. It had some funding in 2023, and then it carried forward into 2024. So what the proposal is to do is to have a calendar year agreement, one that will run basically January to December 31st. And in doing so, in the board's 2024 budget, additionally, you approved an increase in funding. The funding goes from $100,000, what we called $100,000, up to $125,000. So what we're intending to do is kind of a technical correction to bring the contract to a calendar year and also recognize that funding increase. So that's the gist of the agreement. Really not much has changed in the form or function of it all. Additionally, you'll have Mr. Gray submitted their 2022 audit, their profit and loss statements, financial statements additionally, and all that information will be part of your packet. And Mr. Gray will be here to address any questions you may have on the program. But really, this is kind of a technical correction to the past year's agreement. The $125,000, I will say, one point, we did make a January payment to Mr. Gray, because this will become effective if the board approves it for the first pay period in February of 2024. So that amount of $125,000 actually is $115,715. So that I don't want to cause any confusion on that part, but that's kind of the presentation for you.
Any questions of Lance? Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Lance, you said there will be a 2022 audit?
Yes, sir.
Any interim financials for 23? 6 months, 9 months?
Yes, sir. The 2023, we do have their through December or November 30th,
Okay.
their profit and loss, then additionally their financial statements. I think they run till looks like December December 18th.
Okay.
Yeah, so we should have all that information in your packet, and of course, Mr. Gray will be here to address any questions you may have.
Are they on a calendar year, do you recall?
They are.
Okay, great.
They are.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Thank you.
Next, we have consider ordinance O-2403, or ordinance amending the zoning map to CTR Commercial Transitional Zone District for .172 acre, generally located at 117 Alpine Street and for other purposes. And our Planning and Development Director, Ms. Selman, will present the item.
Thank you. Good afternoon. This request comes from Danny Blair, representing Roadside Properties LLC. Request to rezone .172 acres of land to CTR Commercial Transitional. This property is located in Board of Directors District Number 4. It has 60 feet of frontage on Alpine Street. Surrounding property zoning is as follows. To the north, CTR and R3, east, C4, south, C4, and R3, and to the west, commercial transitional. In the future land use plan map, the property is designated residential medium high. This is not compatible with the requested CTR zoning, and the properties surrounding it, which are zoned CTR, have a designation of commercial enclave. So the recommendation would be to consider changing that as well. Planning Commission duly advertised their regularly scheduled December 14, 2023 meeting. After calling for testimony and considering the record, Commissioners voted 8-0 to recommend that the Board of Directors adopt an ordinance amending the zoning map to designate the subject property CTR, Commercial Transitional, and to amend the future land use plan map to Commercial Enclave, because Planning Commission made a specific finding that the changes demonstrate compatibility with surrounding development and zoning and are consistent with the objectives of the zoning code as required by Hot Springs Code Section 16-11E.
Any questions of Ms. Selman? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. For this and the three following, if there was any testimony or any residents in opposition, will that be included in our packet?
It will. I can tell you that this item and the following two items, there has been no controversy or testimony counter to the recommendation.
Thank
Director
you.
Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Miss Kathy, is this land currently vacant?
No, it
Is
has a
what's on there?
single-family home.
Okay. You may have said that to us.
I
I'm not
don't
sure.
think I did.
Okay. So it's got a single-family home there now?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Any additional questions on this item? Thank you.
Next item is
I do have one.
Director Trustee.
Thank you. Kathy, will there be any changes? I know we're going to amend to commercial transitional. Are any changes planned for the existing residents?
That
Do you know?
information I do not have.
Okay. What uses are permissible in commercial transitional zone?
Commercial transitional is primarily a residential zone district, and any non-residential uses that might be wanted at that site typically would require Planning Commission approval of a conditional use.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further questions? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. So in that scenario, would that just mean that this single family home remain, but they could sell something there if their proposal is approved by Planning Commission?
Yep, theoretically true. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any commercial activity would require a conditional use permit. Residential, including STR, would not.
Next item, Bill?
Including?
Next item is ordinance O-2404, an ordinance approving planned development zone district and site plan for approximately .14 acre generally located at 422 Beard Street and for other purposes. And again, Ms. Selman, that's hard to get out.
Thank you. The applicant and property owner is Mr. Lance Levy, and he is looking to create 2 small lots on this site for single-family residential development. The property is .14 acres, so is quite small. It's currently zoned R4, medium high density residential, has a future land use plan map designation of residential medium high, and it is located in Board of Directors District Number 3. He is seeking to create 2 lots. Each lot would be developed with a single-family home. Small one would be a 1-bedroom, 1-bath home. The site is bordered on all sides by property zoned R4, medium high density residential. Frontage on the west is Beard Street, and on the north is Garland Avenue. Garland Avenue will provide ingress and egress, and there is an existing pedestrian sidewalk along that frontage. There are, as you know, mandatory findings with a request for changing a zone, and the applicant has provided substantial documentation of how this request meets those requirements. He identifies that the use of infill with 2 lots would be more productive and flexible for economical housing needs. That the 2-lot, 2-home development on Garland and Beard is unlikely to generate a significant traffic impact. That the homes would be compatible with existing surrounding land uses. The future land use plan map does support this, and Hot Springs 2040 Comprehensive Plan Neighborhood Goals 3 and 4, which are enhance the desirability of in-town neighborhood living and accelerate home building in near-town and in-town neighborhoods, are strongly supporting this request. And additionally, the proposal seeks to implement the city's recent housing strategy by providing new homes in an established neighborhood. To reiterate, there were no people testifying against this at Planning Commission. The findings are that the requirements of Hot Springs Code, Section 16247, are met. Planning Commission, at their December 14th meeting, after calling for testimony and considering the record, voted 8-0 to recommend that the board adopt an ordinance amending the zoning map for 422 Beard Street to designate it planned development. Because the requirements of the code are met, the change helps to implement an approved city plan and the 2023 housing strategy, and is compatible with surrounding development and zoning with 6 conditions. And those 6 conditions, of course, will appear in your staff report.
Any questions, Kathy? Director Garcia?
If, for this, a small or tiny home is built, it still would have to go through approval for safety and meet all the criteria.
Right, the homes that are proposed with this PD are to be stick-built and would go through the usual plan check for compliance with our adopted building codes.
And if I understood, I'm sorry to go back to the one just prior, but I understood at the end that the city attorney said that this would still have to go through the conditional use unless it was for a STR, and then it would not have to. Is that what you said?
2 different zones. So the previous one was a CTR. CTR allows residential use, including STR, without conditional use. Commercial applications require conditional use.
So, in our packet for that one, could we obtain information regarding if a current resident is going to be displaced or has, for a STR? Because they could apply for STR if that's the purpose, and who the owners of the roadside properties are?
Yes, I can provide the owners. I don't
Well, if
believe
you-
I have any.
You can put that in our packet.
Yes, I don't believe I have any jurisdiction to ask the applicant what their plans are for the home. The request is for a zone change, which would allow any use that is allowed in that zone, either permitted or with conditional use approval.
But can you ask if it's a resident occupied? The property, is it currently a residential occupied?
I do not know if it is.
Is that?
And I hesitate to do that
Oh.
because that is not a standard for approving this request.
Not normally, but if somebody's trying to skirt the issue to change it for STRs and that normally would not be approved because we're capped, that is of interest.
I think it certainly is of interest. I don't know that it's of interest that someone might be trying to skirt it. If you feel like that an STR is not appropriate there, then don't zone it CTR.
Well, if it's taking housing out, that's a,
Well, there are a number of reasons why you wouldn't agree
Right.
to rezone something, but if that is one of your purported reasons, then that's reason enough.
thank you.
And with regard to the current one, PD, that locks in not only the use, but also the site plan itself. So nothing can be changed. This is a locked-in application, and we'll go through all of the building permits and inspections.
Right,
that
and
any other home would.
as a new PD zone, would not be eligible to apply for short-term rental.
That's right. You may be thinking
Oh.
that there was a provision in our STR ordinance that allowed for them in PDs, only if they existed prior to the effective date.
first. Okay.
So this is not an attempt to skirt either.
Okay.
Over here. Any further questions on this item?
do.
Director
Back
Robson?
to the
But 17
ordinance,
Yeah, 17's not a PD.
back to the ordinance that we have at hand.
That's what, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I switched on you. I said, but the current one, the one that's being presented now, is a PD, which is
But not the prior one.
not
So
the
it
prior.
could be. That's what-
Absolutely. And
Okay.
So the PD that we're discussing now, or that you're presenting now, is that, it's just for that lot? Because there's several vacant lots in that vicinity.
This is for a single lot at 422 Beard Street.
But it could possibly set a precedent for tiny homes in that whole area? It just so happens I've been driving around that area a lot lately and thinking that that looked like a great opportunity for that.
Well, each request is examined on its own merits, so whether it sets a precedent, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Director.
And I'm not sure if this is something that would easily be put in our packet, but I'm imagining that the reason why this applicant is going for a PD is because the size of this particular lot would not allow for a split. It's too small to do a standard lot line split and have our setbacks. And
That is
Non-conforming,
correct.
Right.
right, but it has too many non-conforming, like, it just wouldn't be possible on the scale of the lot. And so I just know a lot of those questions come up during the meeting, so I don't know if there's a way to sort of include some information as to why someone couldn't just go through something as seemingly simple as a lot line split because of the requirements in R4.
Right. We'll make sure that the minimum lot size in R4 is noted in these staff work.
As the board has heard throughout many discussions over our developmental code, there are many platted lots inside the city limits that have subsequently gone through a zoning change. That zoning change then gives the setbacks. Setbacks are no longer applicable to the lot size that was on the original plat. So this is a very creative and useful way of making use of what would otherwise be unbuildable lots.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Next item is ordinance O-2405, an ordinance amending the zoning map to C3 Office Neighborhood Commercial Zone District for approximately .51 acres, generally located at 1103 Higdon Ferry Road and for other purposes. And again, Kathy.
Thank you. The applicant on this item is Mr. Jonathan Martin, representing property owners K. Marie Bowles Hearn and Nathaniel Lee Hearn, requesting C3 Office Neighborhood Commercial Zoning on this half acre at 1103 Higdon Ferry Road. This is in District Number 3. It currently has a 1,772 square foot single-family residential structure, which was built in about 1958. There's 133 feet of street frontage on Higdon Ferry Road. And this portion of Higdon Ferry Road, Arkansas Highway 88, was widened to 5 lanes with commercial sidewalks and bike lanes on each side not that long ago. The C3 district exists to allow limited commercial along with office development in proximity to residential areas. Nearby land uses on the subject are office, single-family residential, funeral home, convenience store with gas pumps, hospital, shopping center, hotel, and vacant land. The zone change request was found to respond to the significant change that was brought about by the redevelopment and expansion in width on Higdon Ferry Road. This responds to one of the mandatory findings for a zone change. The action in 2017 to widen Higdon Ferry set the stage for significant physical and economic changes to land use along the corridor. Property's future land use classification of residential medium-high is not compatible with the requested C3 Office Neighborhood Commercial District zoning. However, adjacent and nearby C3 zone properties have a future land use designation of linear commercial corridor, which would seem to be suitable for this land if rezoned. Planning Commission had their regularly scheduled meeting on December 14th, calling for testimony and considering the record. Planning Commissioners then voted 8-0 to recommend that the Board of Directors adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning map designating the subject property C3 because the change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning, responds to a significant change in physical, economic, land use, or other conditions, and also recommends to amend the future land use plan map designating the subject property linear commercial corridor consistent with the designation of those nearby C3 zone properties. And I can tell you this, the existing single-family home on the site, the applicant intends to convert that to law offices.
Any questions of Ms. Selman, Director Garcia?
You said that was District 3?
Um,
I thought that was my District 5, because this is past that new gas station, isn't it, where that
It is.
property is?
It
That's
is,
for
yeah.
sale, and there's a older red brick house there?
We'll make that correction.
Either that or it's the Vatican, part of 5, they've plucked it out.
Any, Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Kathy, you said there was a 8-0 vote on this one, too?
Yes,
Okay.
there was, and no one speaking against it.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
No.
Mayor, the final item is ordinance O-2406, an ordinance amending the zoning map to C4 Regional Commercial Zone District for 2.864 acres, generally located at 155 Harvest Lane and for other purposes. Ms. Selman.
Thank you. The applicant is Mr. Ricardo Chambers with CISO Incorporated. He is representing the property owner, Howe Family Revocable Trust, and asking for C4 zoning on the subject property. It is currently zoned C2, general business, and has a future land use classification of linear commercial corridor, and I hope it's located in District 5. Okay. It is directly behind and east of 3315 Central Avenue, which is the previous location of a Harvest Food grocery store. At this time, multiple semi-trailers and other materials are currently being stored on the property. It has a physical connection with Harvest Lane, which intersects with the south side with the 100 block of Golf Links Road, right across from Oaklawn Racing Casino Resort. Adjacent and nearby land uses include Oaklawn, shopping center, restaurant, retail, office, grocery, fitness center, convenience store with gas pumps, and automotive service repairs. The requested C4 Regional Commercial Open Display District zoning is consistent with adjacent properties to the north, which are zoned C4. The subject property is surrounded by commercial zoning, which contains a variety of commercial land uses. We have not taken this to Planning Commission yet. This is unusual. They will be heard Thursday evening. And with a recommendation for approval, this then will appear on your agenda for the upcoming meeting. The future land use classification of linear commercial corridor is consistent with adjacent and nearby C4 and C2 zoned properties, and no amendment to the land use plan map would be required. And that is where we are on this one.
Just want to clarify that last point that Kathy made. I don't know if you caught it or not, but all of the property that's being developed is not asked to be rezoned, only a portion of it.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you.
Any further questions of Ms. Selman as we bring this agenda meeting to a close?
That's all your items, Mayor.
Is that it? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I haven't got a question for Ms. Kathy, but I do have a question over the items on the agenda. So I guess I'll yield that to see if anybody has any questions for Ms. Kathy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I just question why item 15 is on new business and item 7 is on consent. Would
Because
it-
it's an ordinance waiving competitive bidding, so all your
Oh,
ordinances
okay.
had to be on new business.
Gotcha.
In-
Okay.
In order to waive, it has to be an ordinance.
Okay. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, these will be the action items that will be formally addressed next Tuesday. Now, again, we're going to take off item 14, which was R-24-14, and that will come at a subsequent time. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.